Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we finished verse 5 of chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. That was a very important verse in which Krishna Bhagavan said, "Let a man lift himself by his own self alone, and let him not lower himself, for this self alone is a friend of oneself, and this self alone is the enemy of oneself." So that was what we did last time, and there were a lot of different things in there. You can take the, highest import of it, that, we are that Brahman, and, just connect your lower self to the higher self. You can look at it that way, or you can look at it through the mind and all the equipments we have, that how we align with the higher. And basically that Brahman is neutral. You can make use of it doing good stuff or bad stuff. So when you do bad stuff, it becomes your enemy. That's what the whole idea was. And if you have it do the good stuff, then it is your friend. Very simple equation over there. But this whole idea is a very important one. So Krishna Bhagavan actually added one more verse with the same exact line, re-emphasizing and opening up a little bit more that how does it happen. And that's what is verse 6. So I'm going to chant. Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmevatmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatrutve. Bandhu means friend here. Bandhu ko bhai bhi bolte hai, but idhar friend hai iska matlab. Atma is the self. Okay, Shireen ko is muted. Okay. Atma is the self. Atmana, of the self. Tasya is his. Yena, by whom. Atma is again the self. Eva, even. Atmana, by the self. Jitaha is conquered. Jeet lena. Anatmanaha, of unconquered self. Tu is but. Shatrutve, in the place of an enemy. Varteta, would remain. Atma, the self. Eva, even. Shatrutvam, like an enemy. So here he's, telling you कि कौन से व्यक्ति के लिए आत्मा becomes a friend and किसके लिए it becomes an enemy. Okay, that's what this is opening up a little bit more. And I think that Nikhilanandji from Delhi gave a very good tips about this. So, and Swamiji's commentary is also very good. It's a little short on this one, but Nikhilanandji went into a little bit more detail, so I'll bring those points. So here Bhagwan is using the word bandhu, and we discussed that it means a friend. So our own Atma, and you can also look at it, rest of the equipment that we have, body, senses, mind, and intellect, they all become friend if they are in our control. But what does that control and how does it happen? What does it mean? And what is mind and all that? That's what we will go a little more into detail. So basically, we have, with the help of the refined intellect, we can achieve this control. Because the whole idea is, okay, I have all this equipment, how do I make it my friend? So through our intellect we can, So this is only our basic sadhana is that this, all our equipment that we have, they should help us to move on to the right path for us or proceed into the right path. And that's why they need to be under control. And there is no better example than we saw in Kathopanishad, the chariot example. That hey, these are our vehicles that can take us over there, body, mind, and intellect. But if the vehicle is not in the control, horses are not in the control, means sense organs, mind is, you have not held the mind with the intellect, it's not going to take us. So keep that analogy in mind. And then what does control mean actually? It will obey our decisions. That's what it means. So if we make a decision, for example, this is a chapter on meditation, right? So if we make a decision to meditate, we should be able to sit down and be quiet, right? And mind needs to obey, because mind is the one which runs here and there. So, and if we tell our senses, hey, now close your eyes, and if something you hear, don't indulge in it. If something you smell from the kitchen, don't get affected. So if we give this order from the higher intellect to these different organs, they should maintain that. That's what it means, the control. So, and if we tell our intellect, because remember, we have a higher faculty than the intellect also, okay, in us. That's how we know that, hey, my ideas are good or bad or something, or I'm feeling honored, dishonored. That's all this intellect is, moving. So if you're telling your intellect, hey, you need to contemplate on this Bhagavad Gita that we have done, and to come to understanding, it should be able to do that. That's what it means by that this equipment need to obey us. But if our equipments are not in our control, so what that means is each instrument of us is acting like an independent body, independent entity. इसका मतलब सेंसेस कुछ कर रहे हैं, माइंड कहीं और जा रहा है, इंटेलेक्ट कहीं और जा रहा है. मीन्स अगर एक वो रथ है, उसका सब कुछ डिसइंटीग्रेटेड है, सब अपनी अपनी मर्जी का कर रहे हैं. सो if that separation is there like that, then it's a huge problem, according to Vedanta. So and this is called, like our Swamiji Chinmayananji calls this disintegrated personality. So we need to integrate that personality in one line, means whatever my intellect is saying, that's what my mind should follow. Whatever my mind is saying, that's what my body should follow and senses should follow. That's what he's talking about, okay? So, and then he, how he was explaining that even for the worldly achievements, we need that integrated personality. Even if even if you don't talk about spirituality right now, even in the world, if you want to achieve something, you need that integrated personality. So everybody understands that whatever, mind, intellect, body, and senses have to be in one line. Because many times, mind will say, hey, do this, but the body doesn't cooperate. If it's lazy, tamasik, or, sleepy or whatever. And then one very important point he brought out, Nikhilanandji, that we cannot do this forcefully. Some people do, like total force se karne ki koshish karte hain. He's saying it has to be done with the right wisdom. Because if you do it with force, it's not going to last for too long. That's why you need to do it with wisdom. And then the other important thing is why Krishna Bhagavan is bringing this, because the kind of meditation Krishna Bhagavan is talking about in this chapter, it's a necessary initial step before we embark on that meditation. So I'm not talking about other kind of practices people do, for concentration, for health, and this and that people do. That's upasana ke andar aa jata hai. But here, what the kind of meditation he's talking about, that is one of the most important steps to integrate your personality before. That's why he talks about karma yoga before jnana yoga in here. And so basically what this verse is saying, one who has conquered himself by himself. And here conquered mean that word conquer is same as integrated thing, personality. And then what he was saying is that how do we achieve this? So we can achieve this by educating our mind. And he actually said it in a very kind of nice way. He's saying, make friendship with your mind. He's saying just like you make friendship on Facebook, with some new people, it takes a little time. So with your mind also, it's going to take a little time. So what does it mean by make friendships? I think first you have to understand what your mind is, because mind is, according to him, very beautiful equipment that we have, and why? Because we can feel with the mind, think. That's why it is so fascinating, right? We can do so many things with it. But what problem he was talking about is it comes with the past impressions in the mind from many past lives. So each one of us have that, and it could take the form of all kinds of negative things piled up with so many, hundreds of lives before that we have had. A lot of fears, jealousy, guilt, anger, sadness, all these negative things can come up in the mind. But we also know, each one of us, that the mind also has the ability to love, to have compassion, to be friendly. So all these are also within our mind, right? So both of the things are there. So how we have to train our mind systematically, literally, if you can, then from childhood itself. But okay, a lot of us didn't have that luxury. Nobody told us. But at least we can do wherever, jab jago tab savera kind of thing. So we have to include these things in our lifestyle, and everything comes into it. Like what food we eat, who do we meet, everything comes under it, all of that. Slowly and steadily make your mind your friend. And then we will understand the mind deeply. And the other thing I was thinking of, that at least I didn't know about from the Vedic perspective, that what were the components of the mind. So we have this, man, buddhi, chitta, ahankar and all that. And maybe someday we will go over it, because if we understand those components, then it becomes easy probably to manage our mind. But we don't even know about all those things, is harder, So because, that Swami from Delhi, he was saying that some people, say, I don't understand my mind, even though but he's saying you have been with your mind for so long. Think about it. Body, we got it only in this life, temporarily for this life. Mind has been with us for a very, very long time. So that's what we need to understand, what your own mind is. So he's saying that try to understand, what does your mind want? How does it interact? What makes our mind agitated? What frightens it? What makes it quiet and calm? Because that's why we were talking about it, that everybody's sadhana could be slightly different, because I have to understand my own mind. Some people, feel very calm and peaceful, when they do certain things, certain kind of sadhana. Others do other kind of sadhana. So you try to understand your own mind. And with the help of the refined intellect, or how does you get the refined intellect? Through the scriptures you can get. It can give you all kind of tips. And then I think that there is a new term going on right now in the psychological field. It's called mind as medicine. Have you heard of, anybody heard of that? They have this, I've heard this from them. Mind as medicine. Because you can train the mind, that's why. And then in Bhagavad Gita itself, there's another portion of this is going to come. We won't discuss it right now, because Arjuna is going to ask that question, that my mind is restless, unyielding and strong like a wind. We have discussed that, right? And then how do I control it? You are telling control the mind, but this is how my mind is. And Krishna Bhagavan is going to give all that answer. So we will come to that one minute that verse comes. So basically what he's saying, that Bhagavan is saying, is that whoever is made the friendship with their body, mind, intellect and senses, that person is going to go on that journey and get to the, finish line, or in meditation be successful. And, don't do this by force. That's another very important thing. Because we know that if you force something, they will rebel and revolt, So, and then if that's what happens, all our effort will go to waste. And they were talking about, no, don't fall. Previous verse, he said, you reach a height, but don't fall again. But if you do it by force, you will fall. So that's another point that you have to remember, that in what circumstances it will not fall. And then he also mentioned one thing. They say mind is a very, very delicate equipment in some ways. Okay, so that's why you don't treat it very harshly in all that. So, and he also said, which is so true, he said that mind has its own tricks also. If it doesn't want to do something, because it's so ancient, it has been, it will trick you or justify in all possible ways. So just be aware of that. And that's why whatever sadhana you do it very intelligently. And we all know all the sadhana. Different people do, fasting, jap, puja, tirth yatra, reading the scripture, contemplation, satsang, whatever you want to do it with proper awareness and all, because the mind is going to trick you. And then it is not going to be useful. So it has to be done with proper understanding and awareness. And slowly and steadily, it will become your friend. And then he gave a very good example. He said, why you want to make your mind your friend? Because it's like, suppose if you go on some long journey, and if there is a friend along with you who is, very caring, protective, and, very good friend, journey becomes very easy. All of us have experienced that, Instead of going alone, if you go with a friend who is like that, journey becomes very enjoyable, and if the friend will help you to reach your destination. So he's saying that gave very, very good tips. So he's saying that now see the opposite side of it. If the mind is not into control, what does that means? It is not your friend. And all the negative tendencies are there in it. It is sad, agitated, angry, guilty, frustrated totally. And then we have, that means if it is like that, our mind, we have not quietened the mind and we have not given it proper guidance to it. And that's why the mind at that point will act like an enemy. And it's not going to be interested in anything noble, not interested in meditation. And suppose if your mind is very agitated, and you are telling the mind, hey, now sit down and be quiet, it is not going to. It's going to say, hey, I'm angry about this. That person told me something bad in front of everybody and I want to go punch his face. First, you solve my problem. See what I'm saying? So you take an agitated mind and expect it to sit down. It's not going to. First, you have to resolve all this. But this can be only resolved with deep wisdom, vision, understanding, and sadhana. All these things are required to kind of make your mind your friend. And then, whatever outside duties are, we have to continue to do that. And a lot of things happen. But with wisdom and all that, we can try to, dissolve all those negative feelings, basically. And of course, he's used a very strong word that if it is not under control, it becomes your enemy. He has said it in the previous verse also. And he was saying that how our own mind can create so many problems in our own life. It can create delusion for you, agitation for you, and just, forget about even the spiritual thing, even to live peacefully, बोलते हैं ना कि जीना हराम कर देगा तुम्हारा mind. And I think that's what the Sadguru always talks about, that your equipment has become your own enemy. And at one place, Chinmayananji was saying that it is like, taking a whip in your own hand and beating yourself. That's how a completely uncontrolled, agitated mind becomes like that for you, And all of us probably have seen the glimpse of it in our life. So that's why it is so important. And then once you gain that total victory over the mind, that's when you become fit for meditation, the kind of meditation he's talking about over here. And then he gave actually a very good, interesting drishtant. That was kind of funny, but it tells the point. He's saying that, this, they always talk about this Mullah Nasruddin, just a hypothetical character, because in the drishtant, a lot of Swamis use it. He's saying he was sitting on a donkey and he's going here and there. So somebody said, hey, where are you going? Sitting, on this donkey here and there. So he said, why are you asking me where I'm going? Why don't you ask the donkey? Because I don't even know where I'm going. The donkey knows. So he's saying that's what our mind, you have made a mind into the donkey. And I remember that in my study group, there was one lady who came up with this drishtant. He said कि गुरु ने पूछा चेले को कि भाई तू आज सत्संग में क्यों नहीं आया? तो बोला मैं आ रहा था, वो बीच में गधा आ गया. तो बोला अच्छा गधे की बात सुनता है, मेरी नहीं सुनता है. So it's like, mind keeps running here and there. So that's what it is talking about. So then the controlled mind is the yoga root. Remember we went the second verse that, person who has become yoga root means, that's what it means, controlled mind, that you become yoga root. And total control means it has vairagya towards they had given those 3-4 conditions of yoga root. And that all applies over here. The controlled mind is going to have vairagya and dispassion towards the objects of the world and actions, and is going to give up desires. That, hey, this something is going to make me happy. That's when you become fit for meditation. And then the next 3 verses are going to tell you what do you achieve, once you become yoga root, and what is the goal of the meditation. That's what we're going to talk about. And before he's going to tell you how to meditate, the posture and this and that and all that. So this is Krishna Bhagwan is kind of एक भूमिका बांध रहे हैं वो, एक giving you the basis that before embarking on the meditation, what you should be doing and what is the goal and all those things. So those are the points. Anybody, before we read Swamiji's commentary, anybody has any comment, question, or want to add anything?
Question. Yeah. You mentioned in just one sentence that there's mind, intellect, and something higher. All I know about above intellect is our Atma. So when you're saying something higher, what exactly did you mean by that? That's one question.
Okay, so in my mind, what that is that witness. Meenaji, you always talk about that witness aspect, right?
Yes.
That witness aspect is the one which is like Brahman or Atma.
Yes.
Right? And that is above your intellect. And when your intellect, as you get purer in your mind, the witness become more noticeable. That's when, even if you have done something wrong, but your own conscience pricks you. Yes. When you have done something wrong. If there is too much dirt in the mind, it's not even going to prick you. It's going to justify and say, right, hey, whatever you did is right. Everybody else is wrong. I'm the best, and my ego is going to rise up. But the humility and all will come. No. I think my mind has this problem. So that higher than an intellect is that witness.
Yes.
That's what it is.
But the decision making and what for the mind to behave, to me, it was always like the intellect in telling the mind, and the mind has to be under control of the intellect, listening to the intellect, what is
True.
right and wrong.
True. But the intellect has to be constantly purified. Because,
yes, and that is the Vedas and the Shastras are doing.
Will do that, yes.
Yes. And then all that we just mentioned, it's all in the mind, and mind has various thoughts, coming up back and forth. But it's the intellect that has to guide. That means with the intellect, the decision making of my doubts, of my questions, has to come from the intellect, and then the mind has to obey the intellect, right, in order for me to go in the right path.
True. And that's why they, it's like when they talk about mind in Vedanta, it's almost like a transparent thing, right? that's why when all the negativity is gone from the mind, it becomes totally transparent. Then the divinity is coming through. And we have seen the example of the glass, that if you have dirt on the glass, then the light doesn't come through.
Yes.
That's exactly what mind is. So a completely clean mind is nothing but Brahman.
Yes.
That's what it is coming to. But until that, even if you have a little glimpse of it, you can try to, because we are not there yet, right? We are not there yet, but we are getting the glimpse of it slowly.
Right.
And in that, वो glimpse को पकड़ के रखना पड़ेगा फिर. That okay, like make sure that you don't start justifying our bad actions, or blaming and doing all those things,
Did you at some point use the mind as a whole? Sometimes we say mind, the subtle aspect, the complete aspect of the mind and the intellect and the ego and memory. So when you were talking about the mind and how it should be controlled and everything, did you at any point use the mind as a whole, or did you only meant the mind itself?
See, you can take the mind as a whole if you want, or you can take it separately. Here in Vedanta, separately is a better idea than lower mind and a higher mind, because lower mind has all the emotions and all that, likes and dislikes and all that. And that's why Krishna Bhagavan, see, whatever we learned previously in chapter 3, 4 and all that has to come together now. He said, don't come under the sway of your likes and dislikes. What does that mean? We are going to have likes and dislikes because we are born in this body and with this tendency. So it's going to be there. But with intelligence and wisdom, don't come under its sway. That's how you become
Therefore,
fanatic.
we are using the intellect.
Yes, exactly. And the intellect, you are giving it new wisdom and information by studying Bhagavad Gita, by getting Vedanta. And that's why you have to, in chapter, I think 10 or one of them is going to come. I don't remember exactly which one, when he's going to say, even forgetfulness is coming from God because it is needed. Why you need to, for all the negative, wrong things that you have learned before, and once you learn something new, you have to forget that. Can't hold on to it with the new knowledge. So true. So whatever you are thinking, you're very analytical. So you are thinking it, but all that is kind of fitting in whatever you are asking. So you can take it as a whole if you want. You can take it separately, whichever way it helps. The whole idea is that if my higher intellect is telling something, my other equipments should follow.
Right.
That's it. That's where the buck stops. How you do it, there are 100 different ways. And for each one, they might be different.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other?
Umaji, I just following it upon Meena's question. I think you would have told already, but still I wanted to get clarification. So we talk about the intellect and we talked about the mind, we talked about senses to be under control. So what is the role of self, Atma, in mind control? Any?
That's a very, very good and interesting question you said. Okay, so this is what it is. It's like the sun. Because I always learn more from examples. So see,
Yeah.
The sun is shining, and without sun's light, nobody can do anything in this world.
Absolutely.
Complete darkness, we don't even know what is our right hand and left hand, bhi nahi pata chalta hai, right? Is the sun responsible for what you do with it? Somebody can go to a Geeta class, another person can go in some bar and drink, whatever you do. But with the guy who's going to the bar and guy who's going to Geeta class, both of them cannot do it without the sun, right?
Uh-huh.
So what Bhagwan has given us a choice. It's giving you the power to do whatever you want. That's exactly why he said that the mind can become your enemy, because you are taking that power and using it for bad stuff and destroying yourself. So you can call it a neutral power.
Okay.
But then, if you go to Vedanta, there is a Brahman, and there comes God principle.
Right.
Brahma, Vishnu, Maya. That has everything sattvic, and that's why we pray to all these deities and all. Hey, I want to stay in that sattva. I don't know. Did that answer your question?
I was thinking that probably the self is the one which actually makes the mind to be aware of, what is correct, what is not correct, what is controlled and what is not controlled. I mean, I'm thinking in that way. But I think your question, yes, your answer is, this gives me some idea about what is the control of self. Yeah. Second question I have is, you mentioned that we can't control the mind with the force.
Right.
So, guide me.
Okay. So this is what it is. That if you have a baby, right? Baby you can't do anything with force, but you can trick them. So how you trick? They have one thing in the hand which you want to take it away from him. If you take it by force, वो रोएगा चिल्लाएगा, but then you give him another toy, something that you don't mind. So what our Swamiji used to say, that they keep talking about detachment in Vedanta, right? But the mind cannot suddenly detach. So you attach it to something higher first. You give it a better toy, and then it will drop the other thing. Then you are doing it in a nicer way, because otherwise it will revolt. What happened to Dr. Prabhakar's? There you are. So that's what it means, Dr. Prabhakar. That do it with, like, don't do it by force. And we also know anything we don't want to do. Suppose our intellect say, hey, don't do this. If you do it by force, it comes like a jwalamukhi, it phat jayega phir. That's why a lot of people, who quit smoking and all that, if they don't do it in the right manner, it comes back. Smoking, drinking, any of those kind of things. I think Dr. Prabhakar, are you there? Okay, I think he's having some internet issue. Okay. Anybody else has any tips, answer to what he's asking?
Actually, Dr. Prabhakar is okay. आप बोलिए अनिल जी पहले.
No, it's okay, please.
Well, I think Dr. Prabhakar is mixing up intellect and self. Above the mind, you have the mind, and then you have the intellect, and self is higher than the intellect. So जैसे बोलते हैं हम लोग मन, बुद्धि, चित्त, अहंकार. So मन always identifies with the body and with the world. तो जैसे उमा जी ने अभी बोला ना कि जैसे बच्चे को खिलौना लेना है उससे, तो उसको कैसे हम बहला के लेते हैं, तो वैसे ही माइंड को भी हम लोग बहलाते हैं. एंड इंटेलेक्ट हेल्प्स अस कि नहीं, अच्छा, इंस्टेड ऑफ गोइंग यूजलेसली हियर एंड देयर, go to the beach for a walk, अच्छा, go to a Geeta class, keep better company, things like that. ऐसे मन को बहलाते हैं हम लोग, बहला के उसको श्रद्धा बना देते हैं. श्रद्धा उसमें आ जाती है, और वो श्रद्धा जो है वो सुनती है हमारी गीता क्लास. हमारी श्रद्धा सुन रही है, उमा जी को हमारी श्रद्धा सुन रही है कि हमको पता है कि हमको फायदा होगा ये क्लास में आकर के. तो my intellect is helping my mind. Self is higher than the intellect. So self and Dr. Prabhakar was mixing the self and the intellect together. I mean, this is what I understand. And this is what I understand about the mind and the intellect.
Okay, Anil ji.
I think to Dr. Prabhakar's question, the way I see it, Atma is like a screen in a theater. A screen doesn't do anything, but to see anything, you need the screen. So you reflect on it, you project on it whatever you want to see, and it will be visible to you. But the screen doesn't do anything. It always stays unaffected by anything you do. Isn't that how Atma works?
Yes, I think that's also a very beautiful example. And then with our own experience, Prabhakarji, we realize that, hey, if I have negativity in me, I'm the most miserable person, right? So it's like that own experience will tell you, I don't want to be like that. But you know what I thought was a lot of people have that problem is I don't know how to go about it. I am feeling miserable. I don't like it. But that's why all these things are there. Hey, what is your mind? How to control it? And whatever, Manjuji gave the example that, that's what we need to do, because it's not that easy we all know that it's not that easy to control the mind. But Vedanta is giving you some tricks. And the Swamiji Nikhilananji from Delhi, he gave that trick. And I thought that was a very good one. That, hey, be kind to it, try to understand your own mind, see its likes and dislikes. And then, of course, the Gita verses and all that, And that don't come under the sway of your likes and dislikes. That's a very powerful one. Because if we observe ourselves in 24 hours, you will see how much we get driven by our likes and dislikes. So not to come under its sway, all those practices will help. Shall we read Swamiji's commentary now? Any volunteers to read? Okay, Meena ji can read then.
The self is the friend of the self for him who has conquered himself by the self. But to the unconquered self, this self stands in the position of an enemy like the external foe. So here we already see that the self is the friend of the self. That means the higher self is the self of the lower self. And that is my, right? Mm-hmm. And that is my Jivatma, maybe. For him who has conquered himself by the self. So his guidance, his power, I guess, as mentioned earlier, just like you were saying, the sun shines and therefore it is shining. And I guess that it's clear to me this way, it's much clearer.
One more example I will give you. I just remembered. We used to use it a lot in our study group. It's, okay, look at, everybody drives a car, so you will see this example. The gas in the car and the relationship of the car and the gas. What is it? If you have an accident, can you blame the gas?
Right.
Gas is giving you power. It's saying, hey, you press that accelerator, I'll take you wherever you want to. Right. You can go crash it, or you can take it to your destination. That's exactly what the self's role is. Without gas, you cannot even move the car. No matter how great the car, unless it is Tesla. We're not going to talk about that. In that case, the battery is the main. You can change the example. Yeah. So without that power, you cannot move the car. But the power can become friend or enemy depending on what you do with it. I thought this gas example is also very good.
Yeah. Okay. The diviner in us becomes a friend when under its influence, the satanic in us gets converted. To the extent the lower ego withdraws itself from its identifications with the body and the sense organs, feelings, and ideas relating to the extrovert life, to that extent that given ego has come under the salutary influence of the nobler and the diviner. To such an ego, available for correction and proselyte.
Yeah, I don't even know how to pronounce, but I know the meaning. It means to converting the religion, right? Yeah.
Proselytization. The self is a friend, but where the little self remains a constant rebel against the higher, to the unconquered self, the diviner self is an inimical in its attitude towards the lower.
It means, that word means like harmful. Yeah. So basically all it's saying, the devil is in you only. The devil is not outside. Our own mind. And then, when we do chapter 14, I believe, or maybe 16, where it's going to talk about divine and devilish tendencies or qualities in us. So it's like our teacher used to say कि when we read those qualities, we think ये तो किसी और की है, devilish quality. No, it is in us only.
Right.
Humans have that both in it, So it's just telling you that, taking your lower mind and keeping in control with the higher self is your friend. And, we already discussed everything. Swamiji is just telling you in simple words like that. Not simple words. He uses big
Yeah, I
words.
was going to say, they're not
No, not. Yeah. Gurudev uses very, very high words. I have to sit with a dictionary. Otherwise, half of them are missing.
In short, the higher self becomes a friend to the lower, which is available for and which allows itself to be conquered by the higher influences. And the diviner becomes inimical to the undivine, where the lower limited ego remains unconquered by the higher aspirations in us. This stanza is an elucidating annotation on the previous one.
Yeah, so we discussed that it is this, same idea like the previous one. He's just adding it. And then, like you can, if you want to imagine, that you are lower mind and higher mind, and if the lower mind completely refuses to yield to the higher, then it's not going to work. That's what he's trying to tell you. And then basically it's like, if you don't read the Shastras, if you don't even know anything nobler out there, you're not going to even try, So that's where the role of the Shastras and all come, telling you that there is something higher. You can do it. I think it gives us encouragement.
It gives encouragement, but there are times when it is so strong, some of the, thoughts, even you use the intellect to correct it, it doesn't go away.
So that's where I think what you are saying, that's when the purity of the mind comes under. So the sadhana is to purify our mind constantly. And then remember in the previous commentary, Gurudev also said, Chinmayananji also said that we think we are the best and everybody else has a problem. Remember he said that you might criticize your neighbor and other people for certain traits and you don't even realize you have them.
Yeah, there's the ideal in you and there's the actual.
Exactly. So he's telling you that, like the Shastras are like the mirror, which tells you that who you are. Mm-hmm. Truly. From the higher perspective also and in this world also, hey, check yourself that, where you stand. True. Yes. Yeah. So all those previous things come kind of under this. Okay, so before we go to Kathopanishad, anybody has any other question, comment, or want to add anything to this verse? Joe, you have something? No? Okay. So then I'm going to close Bhagavad Gita here. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhya mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.